So when we get to deal with our oversoul, the 5D mystics and functional adults, we are a 3-year-old whole heart because we've either done the trauma work with a good therapist or because we have not had broken heart, so no shame, defectiveness, no trauma, when we were growing up, that will have us leading in a way of adaptive children. So adaptive children need to prove they're right. They need to take power and control whenever they're in a conversation. You'll always notice how they do that. It can be soft, it can be not soft. They make it all about themselves. So they'll list to you their breadcrumbs of Hansel, Gretel, how they can get to wherever they're getting. And then they will retaliate and begin to get agitated if you try to present to them alternative ways. So here's where they get rigid. Chaos depends. Chaos really comes in if you pick a topic and or begin to dismantle something that's so significant, but really it's also the person who's interacting with them. So when you're smart, stable, mature, adaptive, rational, teachable, and that's because you have a flexible, adaptive, coherent, energized, and stable brain. Thank you for the flexible, adaptive faces. That's from Daniel Siegel. He teaches about the mind, the brain, and relationships, and the integration of the brain and what happens when it's integrated. So integration of the brain is optimized human 101 and restorative embodied self. That's what a 5D mystic in the Enlightenment Soul Age group is. So we don't need yoga. We just use the left and right mode of our brain, and we don't hold on to our emotions. We have a relationship with our emotional body. So our nervous system, we self-regulate and self-soothe. That's also why we don't do the whole perfect timing bit that the 4D does. So on that note, I'm going to mix this and that. When it comes to human stuff, a 5D anything is always unconditionally loving and compassionate because we have the entirety of our body, our mind and our body, they're friends. Our brain thinks and our feelings feel, and we get to talk about it. In fact, there's a depth. We don't do the breadcrumb in the same way as the adaptive child, but we can have a breadcrumb trail. It depends if we're having fun. If we have a 3-year-old who's having fun with us, because that's the essence that you're going to come at me with, then I'm going to have fun. If you're a 3-year-old who needs to prove you're right, I'm going to give you the floor and do the right silence. Like the Zen master tradition story that Sadhguru shares, the Zen master goes up as these non-disciples, which is what those bad educators, the people who are silverbacks and picking pain points and putting groups against each other, anyone who's doing separation in a way of saying we're not one globe. I mean, flat earthers, at least they came together. Oh, we're going to prove the earth is flat. Okay, they're not really doing something, but there's a lot of other groups, they're putting groups against each other. Oh, our group is more special. Our group, no. Everybody needs good therapy, not just one group. So I think it should be where all of those people who want to talk about mental health should recognize, even if you have your niche, you should be kind to the people who need a good therapist. So all of them that are in the group. Not just some of them, that we want to help people to learn how to do healthy boundaries. It is very straightforward. It's called not the cancel culture. It's called good therapists who help a person understand about their emotional body and self-regulating and not projecting their trauma story or their codependent type household environment. So the whole gaslighting manipulation, when it's done with low self-esteem, I'm going to change you, I'm going to take care of you. See, a 5D person is not going to see that as a threat. When people weaponize psychoeducation, it only works if your social system actually needs your friends and your family's thumbs up. A 3-year-old with a whole heart, we don't need the thumbs up. My favorite story that my listeners know is when I was 3, I actually got to tell my mom, you can't spank me, it's my body. And she spanked me anyways, a little spanking, not a big one. I don't know what I did. I got a spanking. And guess what I did? I didn't go and be like, oh, please forgive me, mommy. No, I went to make my suitcase. And thank you, Daniel Siegel, for letting me know, wow, Maria, you were already a differentiated self. And you know what a differentiated self is? It's a person who has thoughts and feelings and doesn't give two rats about what anybody, and in this case, my caregiver, and as my caregiver always says, it's because I didn't spank you enough. And I'm like, well, you didn't, and now it's too late. And guess what? You grow up, and here's a 3-year-old who's a 43-year-old person who only projects. No, I don't project. I have my 3-year-old with my mother and twin, and those are the only 2 people who get my quote-unquote wrath. It's not wrath. It's the rigid chaos that any person, Daniel Siegel teaches all about it, will have when they have not worked through their trauma memory. In my case, it's just I'm so much me, leave me alone, that I completely go out of having to. No, it's not that. But it is about my space. And being in a space where I had to share space, it makes sense. When you know yourself, yes, I forgot, we all have drivers. So there's self-agency, bonding, and certainty. Those affect your personality. I'm a self-agent. That's why I also don't need a thumbs up from my mother about anything. She knows this so well. So much so she thinks sometimes that I don't care about her opinion. I say, no, I care about your opinion. I just might not apply. Those are two different things. So when you're an independent thinker, it's not because you disregard people, but you also don't have them up on a pedestal, and it's not just people. Subject matter experts, deities that people talk about. In fact, you know what's beautiful about being a 5D mystic is that the shared consciousness sphere is energy, and I'm so amazed by this field. The field is just amazing. So back to our oversoul. When 4D does the whole, what was it? The longer you entertain what is meant for you is not meant for you, the longer you postpone what is, or surrender to the perfect timing. So I see a lot of 4D people. It's been, I don't even know how many years. 5, 6 years, they're just doing their karma wheel over and over and over again. Now I know how to say it's their unfinished business from their own home, and it's their 3-year-old. So some have the basic, I got yelled at, shame, defectiveness. That's where at 3 years old you begin to get yelled at. So their first 3 years, they can have had secure attachment, which is great because at least they have a decent relationship with their emotional body. But if they began to get into that, oh, I'm not worthy because of the way their nervous system, well, every person's nervous system responds differently. In fact, Stephen Porges is still building his empirical data so that the community can see and believe, because, you know, that's how empirical data works. But 4D is too busy talking about conspiracy theories or the apocalypse coming and all this other stuff. And that's where 3D, 4D, yeah. I knew that it would be something like this, but I didn't really know what it would look like. And then I was like, well, are we really going to have people that are going to stay in limited consciousness? Because, I mean, they all talk about how smart they are. But then again, regurgitating information and putting it on pedestals and also thinking of hands that can control you makes you not independent in your brain. Nope, because your attachment system totally is not yours. You're not wielding it. And your social system, you're not wielding it either, because those are all automatically going to recalibrate your emotional body. And if you're not able to be always in compassion, you don't know how to regulate your emotional body yet, because you don't know how to be in your mammalian heritage, the ventral vagal state. So our homeostasis is when we can be in love every day, that ecstasy of the Enlightenment Soul Age group, without yoga or spirituality. You don't need concepts that are of that. What you do need are, how am I going to choose to feel when I'm being treated like shit? I'll use that one since we talked about poo-poo. So here's where our oversoul, we will be like, you're part of my family. I love you the same. Because again, though, a 3-year-old whole heart doesn't have the, oh my gosh, I got a thumbs down, now I don't feel worthy. No, we feel very worthy. In fact, that word even makes no fucking sense. Like, why are you giving worth to people? That's ridiculous. All life has value, and how dare you dismiss any life? So when you meet a piece of constant Purusha Prakriti, it will be automatic. How dare you decide anything about any other life? If it's breathing, it's alive, and how dare you? And that's where I learned how not to bring Kali mode up. Because I remember being taught by God how to be humble, and I remember saying, hey God, your peeps aren't being humble, and apparently they forgot all anointed, all knowing. They seem to not know that you're the one who gets to decide things, and they seem to be casting a lot of stones. I think they're also using words that don't mean anything to them. Because if you heard anything about what is spoken, it would be you're supposed to be humble, love. A lot of philosophers and a lot of religious stuff and everything that is in the sphere of belief talks about this feeling of love towards each other. And humanly speaking, I haven't seen people, especially our 4D people, come together. No, they talk about spiritual warfare. They talk about human beings in ways of canceling them versus helping them, because we're here to help each other to move beyond our relational trauma. That's why compassionate Zen masters. Forgiveness is about you knowing I'm a human and you're a human, and if you're nasty, something's up, and it's most likely going to be related to your childhood. So please be loving and kind to each other. and compassionate and opinionated as all of us. Tune on in.